Sige, ma'am.
So once again, welcome to our class in CPT 3, Fundamentals of Crop Science. So in continuation to our topics last time on water management, so next is we have soil management for crops. And so we're going to talk about the different types of soils. Now this is actually already a review or just a general management. I know you have also a separate subjects for soil science, right? So nag-take na ba mag soil science? Naka-take up na ka?
Ma'am.
Soil science.
Karon pa, ma'am, kanang sa mga ka-sir sub.
So the best we are in general management. So the best soil for crops have these following features. So we have well-drained, of course. Dili siya pwedeng stagnant or bahaon. Fairly deep and high in organic matter with 3 to 5%. So how do you know, Oliver, nga high in organic matter siya? And say what color of the soil for you is high in organic matter?
Ano kanang color dark brown?
Color?
Dark brown, ma'am. Dark brown.
Yes.
Dark brown.
So if it's red, what do you think? Siyempre naiyuta nga pula, no?
Paan, ma'am, bra pare pula murag acidic na yata na paana, ma'am. Sa pula na.
So it doesn't matter whether it's the pH of the soil, but the color, if the color is red, actually it's high on ferrous na iron, no? Iron na nutrient or element. Kaya siya red. And mostly, gikan na siya sa mga very old volcanic soil. So it's not actually as fertile, which is best for soil, but some crops would likely thrive in red soils or mga volcanic soils. So in continuation, of course, I'm happy that you are aware na organic matter have this gray or black or brown color. So good physical condition or structure with ample nutrient and water holding capacity. So it's not also, although well-drained siya, pa hindi naman not too sandy and not too sunny, parang loamy enough to hold water, no? And this should be uniform, free of compacted layers. So meaning ang soil is dali ra mabungkal, no? Dili siya compact. And should be loosened 6 to 8 inches if you're planting vegetables, no? And sandy loams and silt loams are therefore one of the best types for crops. But as I have told you, it depends usually to the type of crop, no? Sandy soils for early harvest and muck soils for leafy vegetables, root and bud crops, and first seed germination. So however, for sandy soils is also good kung magpa-germinate ka og mga vegetables. Usually ka na ganing seedling tray nato, ginamixan nato na siya og sand and organic matter and kanang garden soil. Mo na usually combination in a for seed germination sa seedling tray. And even kanang mga naka rootstock, no? So what are these essential elements needed by plants? So there are 3 criteria by Arnon and Stout in 1939. They were the one who first classified whether an element is essential. So there are 3. First, needed for the completion of the plant's life cycle. Of course, kailangan kayo siya para mabuhi ang tanom. And second, causes specific deficiency when it is unavailable, which is not replaceable by another element. So it means kung wala siyang element, mabuhi man ang tanom, pero na siya'y symptoms when it is lacking. And directly involved in plant metabolism. Na siya'y function on the growth. So there are 17 essential elements actually. And they are classified as macro and micronutrients. So I know you're familiar with this one because these are just the elements found in the periodic table. No? And there are 100 more types of elements in the periodic table. And we only have 17 which are found essential to plants, but meron pa nga mga additional aside from 17, no? So, but these are the macro. It means that they are needed in higher amounts. That's why we have when we have fertilizer grades, we have the so-called NPK or the complete fertilizer kasi meron siyang nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, no? And also hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen are already available in the atmosphere. So no need to actually supply that artificially or synthetically. And most of the crops are, although rich in calcium, but they are still needed in higher amounts. So sometimes calcium, magnesium, and sulfur are not included in the complete fertilizer grade, but they are still needed by plants in higher amounts. That's why they are macronutrients, and usually kasi abundant siya. Unlike the NPK. So the other micronutrients are only needed in small amounts, like the chlorine. So basically, like did you know that the kanang lubi, Oliver, they need a lot of chlorine. That's why the coconuts are best in the seashore because of the sodium chloride, no? And have you heard na butangan pag nag-asin sa PCA? Kadungog da ka na, Oliver?
Nakadungog ko na, ma'am.
Yes.
Naaman, nakadungog ka na, ma'am, kung nag-asin put ngan.
Okay, because it's highly needed in, although it's a micronutrients, but it's also needed for especially in coconuts. And also iron. Boron is an example, especially for boron is very important in the fruit quality of plants like pomelo, because pomelo is my favorite fruit. And manganese, also zinc, copper, molybdenum, and nickel. These are just some of the 17 essential elements. So I hope you, as an agriculturist, you are very aware and you could somehow remember to enumerate all of these 17. There are only 17. And the primary, the macronutrients itself can also be classified whether primary or secondary. Yung complete na sinasabi ko kanina, these are the primary and the major fertilizers since they are required in relatively large quantities and are most often lacking in soils. So, and they are also known as secondary nutrients because like calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, because they are not deficient in soils and their plant contents tend to be lower than the primary elements. So, so these are the two classification of the macronutrients, whether primary like the NPK and the secondary calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Kasi again, since nawala kanina Oliver, they are primary. They are lacking in soils and they're needed in large quantities. Although in secondary naman, they are lower second to these large quantities and are not usually deficient in the soil. So there are a lot of functions of these essential elements. So they can be classified into 4. Una, as the constituents ng organic structure, like for carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and magnesium, and activator ng mga enzyme reactions or charge carrier. So we know that enzymes have very important role in the growth of plants, the metabolic activities like the iron, copper, zinc, molybdenum, manganese, and nickel. And third is the involvement in osmoregulation or osmotic balance or maintenance of electrochemical equilibrium like the potassium, chlorine, and calcium. And the last category, fourth, is the involvement in energy transfer reactions such as the phosphorus and boron. So let's take a look of each functions of these essential elements. First, the nitrogen. So the nitrogen are the constituents of amino acids, nucleic acids, amines, amides, coenzymes, and chlorophyll. So chlorophyll, we all know that's the green pigment in plant which are responsible, which takes roles in the conversion or the production of food in plants. So in order to take photosynthesis occur, so we need a lot of nitrogen. So it's generally for vegetative growth, producing large green leaves, and for filling out fruits. And in high amounts will cause excessive vegetative growth, and succulence, and will delay fruiting, especially in fruit crops. So it's highly needed during vegetative growth, and you will even know if it's lacking because it's somewhat pale. The leaves will have symptoms of yellowing. And if it's too high naman, it will delay fruiting and will cause excessive growth. So next is the phosphorus. These are components ng nucleic acids and membrane, phospholipids, sugar phosphates, ATP, and ADP. So if you have remember on the cell parts, the nucleic acids are the powerhouse of this, the nucleus is the powerhouse of the cell, and it's where energy is produced. The adenosine triphosphate and the adenosine diphosphate. So it plays an integral role in the cell's energy metabolism, which is involved in the different processes of plants. That includes growth, development, flowering, and so on. And it has a regulating role in carbon partitioning, so promotes early growth, root production, maturity, and seed development. And also, phosphorus is very important for fruit production. Next, for the NPK, K stands for potassium. This maintains the pH stability and osmotic potential naman. So, it's also involved in stomatal opening. So, if the potassium influx, and the sodium efflux, and the cofactors of many enzymes. Hi, Jessie. So we're talking about essential elements already for soil management. And among the major macronutrients, potassium is the third one. So the function of potassium as follows are for translocation of carbohydrates, cell division, and water relations. And for root sugar crops naman, formation of digit stems in celery, for disease resistance, and it will enhance fruit size and quality and ripening of tomato. So the role of potassium is also my favorite fertilizer, is because for potassium, I have proven that during my research days that potassium, although if you apply that in large quantities, even as foliar fertilizer, will not cause any side effects to any plant. I mean to pomelo, and it's even can enhance the quality. So next is the secondary, the secondary macronutrients that includes calcium. And of course, even humans and animals needs calcium. So for plants naman, these are constituent of the middle lamella of cell wall, which is a very important in the fruit quality and even for ripening. It is the binder of phospholipids in membrane and will act as second messenger in environmental and hormonal signals. For example, if merong mga stress, if stress kasi El Nino, it's drought time, so calcium will act as messenger that the plants is stressed, the environment is stressed, causing to the plant. So then the hormone signals like the abscisic acid and the ethylene, stress ethylene hormones will act on it with the help of calcium. And it's very important in maintaining the structure of membranes of cell wall. So, yung kinakain nating apple, yung kinakain nating banana, those contains calcium as they're in the membranes. So it also counteracts toxic effects ng organic acids in plants and too much magnesium, sodium, and boron. So it's calcium is important to negate toxicity ng magnesium and so on. So in fact, you will know if there are calcium disorders like calcium deficiencies. Even calcium level in soil is high, pwedeng magkaroon ng calcium disorders because of its interaction with other nutrients, making it not unavailable for crops. And caused by water stress and environmental factors. So it means ginagamit ang calcium for water stress signals. So calcium is not utilized, magkakaroon ng calcium disorders. And also if the calcium disorder for tomato and pepper and watermelon is blossom end rot. So it means it is lacking calcium. And tip burn in cabbage and lettuce, cavity spot in carrot and parsnip, and black heart in celery, and also internal browning in Brussels sprouts. So other elements, these are already microelements, such as magnesium, is also found in central atom in chlorophyll molecule. So if you take a look to the chemical formula ng chlorophyll, ang center niya ay magnesium. So it's very important in photosynthesis. And also activator of enzymes, and of course again, enzymes are very important in the metabolic process of plants for growth and development. And prevents formation ng damaging oxidative radicals, vital to photosynthesis, deficient in acid soils, and high in calcitic limestone and potassium. So, pag alkaline siya, marami siyang magnesium. And of course, deficient siya sa acidic. Another element is sulfur, which is component ng amino acids such as cysteine and methionine. So, of course, you know that amino acids are very important for the metabolic functions and for the synthesis ng proteins. And some coenzymes such as thiamine, biotin, and coenzyme A also needed sulfur. And also for crucifer, it's the highest sulfur requirement. So if I'm gonna ask you which among all the crops and vegetables needed sulfur components, so it's the crucifer, like the cabbages and the petchay. And sulfur is very low in sandy soils and low organic matter. So chlorine is required in oxygen evolving reaction for photosynthesis as well. It will maintain electrical neutrality across membranes and active solute in the vacuole and stimulate proton pumping ATPase in the tonoblast. So it's also involved in in photosynthesis and different metabolic processes. For iron, it's constituents ng cytochrome, And iron sulfur proteins involved also in photosynthesis, respiration, and even nitrogen fixation, and required in the synthesis mainly of proteins. While boron is needed in pollen tube growth via cell wall synthesis and plasma membrane integrity, so it will prevent premature bud of flower drop. That's why boron is very important in flowering and fruit development of most crops. Next is manganese, is also for photosynthetic evolution of oxygen, which is cofactor of enzymes like oxidases and peroxidases. So yun ang mga main function ng manganese. And zinc, metal component ng many enzymes. And catalytic, structural, or coactive component involved in the gene regulation of ribosomes. So these are specific functions to each element. And copper is the component ng plastocyanin, cofactor of enzymes and redox reactions. We know that redox reaction is the reduction of oxygen potentials which are involved in the respiration of plants. And the lignification ng cell wall, so making the apple crispiness and so on. And molybdenum for nitrogen metabolism as meta-component ng enzyme and catalyst like nitrogenase and some other enzymes. And lastly, the nickel is also component ng enzyme urease, yung urea natin, yung urea na fertilizer, and hydrogenase for the mobilization of nitrogenous compounds. So most of these micronutrients, like even molybdenum and nickel, for instance, are very important for protein or nitrogen as well. So without them, medyo ang functions for crop growth is not. Since nitrogen, as we have discussed earlier, is very important ng growth, no, for vegetative growth ng plants. So what is this Liebig's law of the minimum? So it's very famous law in the fertilizer management. If a single essential element is below the critical level for availability, crop growth and yield will fall even if the other elements are sufficient in supply. No? For example, as shown on the figure, halimbawa, if one element is lacking here, still it's not enough, although the rest of the nutrients are very much high amount available in the soil, but one nutrient is lacking, so it's still not enough for the growth of plants. So lahat sila, these 17 essential elements are in fact very unique to each other and important for the completion of growth and development in plants. So loss or lacking of any of this, so they're like a family, no? Lacking of this wouldn't make a family complete, no? Parang ganon. So in fact, lacking of one of these elements will cause a deficiency symptom. So you will know that it is deficient through the following diagnosis. Una, visual symptoms. Tingnan mo siya, nag-yellow ba siya, nag-blue, or whatever. Second, you will do the tissue and soil analysis. So you will, there are specific guidelines on this. So if you have noticed, if you have nakatry na mag-soil analysis and tissue analysis before, Jessie?
Wala pa, ma'am.
Wala pa. So if muado mo sa Department of Agriculture, sa ilahang soil analysis laboratory, na ay mga standard ditong procedure on how to get the tissue and soil analysis. And so there are also like, they have used also some analytical procedures in doing so. So you will know after the result na your soil or your 1 hectare land are lacking of these nutrients for crop production. Like for instance, for rice or for mango or for banana. And there are also biochemical indicators, like if you will say that it's so acidic kung daghan kay siya pugon grass, no? Kanang sagbot. Kung ang isa ka area, daghan kay pugon grass na mag-thrive. So, biochemical indicators is that they are very acidic. And even yung mga like lichens or leeches, also biochemical indicator that is very acidic. So the causes of this deficiency symptom should be low nutrient concentration in the soil or nutrients in, although marami, fertile ang soil mo, pero they are still in unabsorbable form. Meaning, like a nitrite and nitrate, so NO3 and NO4, so absorbable form nun is nitrate, no? And processes which make nutrients unavailable to plant, like kung magsabwag lang ka o ka ng urea, no? And it's highly volatile. So, mag-volatilize lang ang nitrogen into the air, dili siya magamit sa crop. Or, magbaha. So, katong imong gisabwag dito, mag-leach lang into the other parts of the soil or sa rivers. And mag-erode ang soil, that's another story. And lastly, inappropriate soil content and pH, because we'll be talking about more on pH and its effect on the different nutrients, no? Kasi kung too much pH will also fix or make some nutrients or elements unavailable. So we say there are also two classification of elements based on mobility inside the plant system. So they are said to be mobile, like the NPK, magnesium, and zinc. If ang deficiency niya will show up first in the older leaves, since yung young tissues have more drawing power in short supply. So kung short gani ang available nutrients in the soil, so ang mas mauna o ganang mauna og utilize are the young tissues. So ang mag-yellow gid ana niya is the older leaves. So these are mobile elements because they are easily drawn by the younger leaves. So you will also know that it's an immobile nutrient like calcium, boron, copper, manganese, sulfur, and iron. If they first affect the young plant's parts, since the older tissues may have enough already of the minerals, which can they retain during short supply, and they are immobile, so they cannot move to the younger plant parts. So if ang yellowing, halimbawa na, because there are other like nitrogen, another symptom is yellowing for nitrogen. And sometimes calcium deficiency will also cause yellowing, no? So, of leaves. So you will know if it's mobile, or immobile. So you know that calcium is immobile. So if ang yellowing is nasa older leaves, so you will know na mobile siya, so it's a nitrogen deficiency. But if the yellowing is in the younger plant parts, you will know that it's in immobile element, so it's calcium. And there are a lot of ways to know and to assure that what kind of yellowing is that, or what we call chlorosis or necrosis. When we say chlorosis is the yellowing of the whole leaves. For necrosis, yellowing only or browning of a particular spot in the leaves. So, as you can see, old and mature leaves can have chlorosis or necrosis, and they can be uniform over leaf, like the nitrogen and possibly sulfur, although the symptoms are on young leaves, and intervenal or blotchy if it is magnesium. For necrotic naman, the tip or edge naman ng or intervenal yellowing or browning is caused by potassium. Kung nasa tip ang yellowing. But if it's intervenal, nasa veins, and blotchy color, it's a magnesium. And if it's immobile, if the yellowing and the fluorescence and necrosis is on the younger leaves, kung uniform ang chlorosis, it's a sulfur and iron. If the leaf edges is purple and intervenal yellowing or cupping, it's caused by sulfur. And if it's intervenal or blotchy, it's caused by zinc, manganese, iron, and copper. So, and if it's necrotic or spot-spot lang, intervenal blotches, and leaf edge scorching, it's caused by calcium. And if it's yellow to brown intervenal areas, red to brown, purple leaves before curled or torn leaves, it's boron. So, you will easily know if it's a boron deficiency kasi necrotic browning siya, red, purple, so medyo ibang color. And it's also, and if also it is sulfur, madali lang siya kasi purple leaf edges and intervenal yellowing copy. And all the rest are difficult actually to decide whether it is nitrogen, magnesium, potassium. So like potassium is intervenal, pero mind you, iba-iba ang kanyang symptoms per crop sometimes. So that makes difficult. So the best way pa din to reassure the different deficiency symptoms is through laboratory analysis. So for example, in the figure, this will show calcium deficiency. New leaves are misshapen. So if for the younger leaves, and for iron also are yellow-white with green veins. So ito yung iron deficiency. Ito yung kamukha ng potassium deficiency. This is nitrogen deficiency. This is carbon dioxide deficiency. This is phosphorus deficiency. This is magnesium, and this is manganese. So, kung may picture, mas madali. So, but another for the micronutrients, this is for boron, sulfur, manganese, zinc, magnesium, phosphorus. So, medyo purple ang phosphorus and potassium, nitrogen. So, yellow totally talaga pang nitrogen and older leaves. And molybdenum, copper, iron, medyo ano din ang iron, bluish, and calcium, sa tip talaga. Because these are immobile elements. And for corn, to be specific, these are the guide to nutrient deficiency symptoms. So this is a healthy green plant. And this is phosphorus deficiency. This is potassium deficiency, and this is nitrogen deficiency. O, di ba, mas iba ang nitrogen deficiency sa corn. And magnesium, and this is due to drought, and this is due to disease, and these are due to chemical toxicity like yung ating mga herbicides. So these are the deficiency symptoms of essential elements, general but specific, deficiency per element or essential element. For nitrogen, stunted talaga yung growth niya, and chlorosis ng other leaves with abundant anthocyanin in veins edge. And these are very common in short and woody stem. For potassium naman, yellow yung marginal or mottled chlorosis, which then develops into necrosis occurring at leaf tip and margins towards leaf base. And for calcium, the young shoots are deformed and merong breakdown ng meristematic tissues in stems and roots, which cause death in acute cases. And roots are poorly developed. Symptoms appear near growing points of stems and roots, and will have or little fruiting. For magnesium naman, intervenal chlorosis in older leaves, wilting, or abscission, brittleness, or necrosis. For phosphorus naman, young plants are stunted also, and blue, dark blue, green, or purplish. Stems slender or non-woody. And for sulfur, leaves is green to yellow, appearing in the veins of young leaves and slender. And for chlorine, wilting ng leaves, especially the leaf margins, curling for severe deficiency, shriveling, necrosis, or even the roots is swelling, stubby, due to the formation ng short laterals. For iron, chlorosis in the veins on young leaves and aerial parts are necrotic and bleach in the margins and tips. And for manganese, mottled chlorosis siya in veins, parang virus appearing first on the younger leaves and it spread to older leaves. So the stems are also yellowish green and hard and woody. For boron naman, terminal leaves necrotic, shed prematurely. Internose terminal shoots shorten, apical meristem blacken and die, roots short and stubby, dwarf, stunted, and the flower development and seed production is impaired. For zinc, stunted growth, dicotyledonous due to reduction ng internodal growth. We call it rosetting. So ito din yung virus na deficiency. So for molybdenum, light yellow fluorosis ng older leaves and the flowers fail to grow also. For copper, wilting ng terminal shoot frequently followed by death and leaf color faded. So carotene and other pigments are reduced if lacking with copper. And for nickel, the root growth severely inhibited with the leaf tip necrosis ng urea application. So this is a typical iron deficiency in these are leaves actually of citrus plants or oranges to be specific, and boron toxicity, and magnesium deficiency, potassium deficiency, manganese deficiency, and zinc. And for the fruits, ito yung complete NPK compared to walang potassium. So these are the different symptoms, no, that are related to deficiencies of the different elements. So checklist lang yan. So what are the different types of fertilizer we usually add to counteract these different deficiencies? So when we define fertilizer, of course, these are substances that supply nutrients to growing plants. And this can be classified as organic or inorganic. Of course, you know, Oliver and Jesse, what are organic and inorganic differences, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ang natural, organic yan. And inorganic siya, synthetic. So example ng mga synthetic is single, like the urea 4600. And incomplete if NP lang meron, nitrogen 1620 ang phosphorus, walang potassium. And complete siya, meron din tayong 14, 14, 14, and meron tayong 16, 16, depende yan sa available. Pero commonly, 14, 14 yung complete fertilizer, NPK. So what is organic matter? These are active or living component of the soil. And example are the green manure and animal manure, and they act as storehouse for nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. And they are very important in the cation exchange capacity, which is important for the fertilizer utilization in crops, and serve as a buffer for chemical reaction, granulator soil particles for better structure, increase its porosity, water absorption, and aeration, and dark color increases heat absorption. So That's why organic matter is also very important in water management because of its heat absorption capability. So these are the different organic fertilizer and their chemical analysis for NPK. So ang pinakamalaking highest amount ng nitrogen here is the bat guano, followed by the castor bean meal. I mean cottonseed meal, and no, fish meal and bat guano are the highest, followed by those. And in terms of phosphorus, so malaki ang bone meal and fish meal. And potassium are bat guano, cattle manure, and chicken manure. However, there is a lot of problems associated with organic matter, no? Especially when you apply them close to planting time. So this must be applied like at least 1 to 2 weeks before planting or during land preparation. So this because fresh organic matter, it means hindi pa siya totally decomposed, so can cause burning and formation ng excessively aerated layers and pockets which interferes water movement and will also lock up available nitrogen by decomposition bacteria, mechanical interference like plowing and cultivation. So you notice kung daghay mga laya nga mag-plow ka or mag-araro ka na daghag laya, it's also difficult. And formation ng organic toxic compounds under anaerobic and non-colloidal conditions. So, imbis na makatabang siya sa tanom, toxic na noon siya. So, those are organic matters. Now, example here are inorganic fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers. So, these are the chemical names and components. So, pinaka-common natin ay urea na ginagamit, which has 45 to 46 nitrogen. But the highest actually is anhydrous ammonia and also expensive and highly corrosive and explosive. And ammonium nitrate, yung second, which is 33 to 34. And ammonium phosphate, we also have calcium cyanamide, and the complete fertilizer, NPK. So these are other inorganic fertilizer, which are mainly for phosphorus, triple superphosphate, and for. And for potassium sources, we have muriate of potash. Ito yung ginamit ko as foliar fertilizer, and potassium chloride, sulfate, and nitrate. So there are also certain methods on how you're going to apply the fertilizer. Of course, you're very familiar with this. Oliver and Jesse, naka-try na mo mag-apply of fertilizer, no? Of course.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so usually ang saan yung ginagamit? Broadcast, banding, or side dressing?
Broadcasting, ma'am, o side dressing. I think side dressing, nakatry na pa ni ma'am.
Okay,
Broadcast ng
isabuag lang ni mo, no? And that's usually happens like before planting. And side dressing, kapag nandiyan na yung so dili ani mo pwede i-broadcast kasi maato siya sa dahon, masunog. And we say banding if it's placed 2 inches to the side and 2 inches below the level of the seed in the row at planting. So, ilubong siya. That's banding. While side dressing, ibutang lang nimo siya from the base of the plant, which is 6 to 10 inches away. So there are also other methods such as starter solutions. So this makes use of water and liquid fertilizer, which is water soluble, and are directly applied to the roots of the plant. Now during planting, like for tomatoes, peppers, melon, and cole crops. So these are usually the synthetic fertilizer grades. We also have foliar fertilization, but you cannot usually using macronutrients. So they are sprayed on the leaves, and because of its mechanical or manual laborious fertilization, it's not usually done. No? And fertigation, applying fertilizers with the irrigation water. Gimix na dito daan. So, you will know the best way to know the fertilizer requirements aside from the, kasi kung malalaman mo lang, no, kung halimbawa ayaw mo ng analysis kasi tedious. So, you just have to do it using kanang symptoms, no, deficiency symptoms. So, tignan mo lang na green and, healthy ang plant, so wala siyang deficiency. But to make it sure, para alam mo kung ano lang ang amount, kasi sobrang fertilizer, hindi rin magagamit lahat. So, it's best to do soil analysis and complement with tissue analysis. It's very critical. Kung critical talaga, at marami kang budget. So, you just collect 30 to 40 centimeter deep as random, usually zigzag, no? Kung halimbawa ang area mo is like 1 hectare, so make sure meron kang 10 collections na pa zigzag, no? Zigzag lang. Ana. Antod 10 or more. And then you mix soil and then you just collect. Pag mix ni mo atong mga collections ni mo, and then you just get a kilogram. And for tissue analysis naman, yung leaf sample, like for example, 4 to 6 months old leaves ng mga non-fruiting terminals, kasi yun yung mga nandyan pa yung parang equal amount ng nutrients in the mid-region ng trees sa middle areas. This is in the case of citrus. So, a lot of grass have different procedures too. And we now go talk on pH, which is very important in soil reaction. So usually, yung crops natin will grow best in a pH range ng 5.5 to 7. So 5 to 6 is the best for highly organic soils. And ammonium fertilizer, calcium leaching, and organic matter decomposition will increase when the acidity of the soil increases. And while calcium, potassium, magnesium are deficient in the acidic soils and will also reduce uptake ng phosphorus. So what we do if it's too acidic, kasi mostly if it's acidic, madaming, like yung potassium, calcium, magnesium, which are macro elements, are affected. So you need to put lime, which will neutralize the excessive soil acidity and supplies also calcium and magnesium, since lime is just contain calcium and magnesium. So the aluminum, manganese, sodium, and minor elements are more soluble and toxic at very high pH or alkaline. So masobraan man po siya o kanang aluminum, manganese, and sodium, kung ano po kayo siya, basic na kayo siya, nasa 7, more than 7 ang pH. And iron, manganese, and zinc and boron are very deficient also in alkaline soils above 7.4 pH. So, dapat ang atong pH is nasa 5.5 to 7 or 5 to 6. So, these are this figure will show you on the effects of the different nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and so on if it's strongly acidic, no? And alkaline, strongly alkaline. So, you can see yung level niya is very stable from medium acidic to medium alkaline. But if it's strongly acidic na, so higher ang amount ng nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. But etong mga what else? Etong and the rest also of higher na yung amount, no, which, and it will also even decrease boron and manganese. And also for, if it's too alkaline, etong mga NPK will also decrease. So yun yung mga reaction niya or availability. So what are the different limes that we can apply or mix in the top of the soil? We have calcitic lime, which contain 56% calcium oxide and magnesium oxide, and highly soluble. We also have magnesium. We also have dolomitic lime and hydrated lime, which has different functions. So those are how to neutralize the soil. So what if it's acidic? What if it's too alkaline? Kasi hindi rin maganda if it's too alkaline, no? Like the phosphorus and the nitrogen will decrease at this level. So what are you going to do if it's too high of if it's too alkaline? Anong dapat natin gawin? Oliver and Jessie. If the soil is too acidic, Oliver, mag-apply lang tayo ng what?
Lime, ma'am.
Yes.
Lime.
Pero if
Lime.
masyado, anong apply natin? So we just have to apply
Pag taas ang alkaline,
fertilizer. Yes.
plus
Which are NPK. So damihan na natin ang NPK kung masyadong alkaline ang lupa. Pero if masyadong acidic, okay, so why do we need to discuss nutrient cycle? So we know kung saan patungo yung ating ina-apply ng fertilizer in the agricultural industry. So as you can see in this figure, there are less than a minute lang. So bibilisan ko na lang, meron din tayong carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, and phosphorus cycle, also potassium cycle. So yun yung mga cycle na kung saan pumupunta yung mga different nutrients, no? Sulfur cycle. So, and in effect, meron tayong eutrophication. Ano yung eutrophication? Wherein, like for instance, in this last photo, yung sulfur natin or sulfates goes into the bodies of water. And even in phosphorus, no? Goes into the bodies of water, like nitrogen. This will all cause eutrophication or too much amount ng nitrogen and phosphorus. This will deplete oxygen. So all the we will call it's called algal bloom, and because of too much nitrogen and phosphorus into the water bodies, dadami yung algae, yung oxygen is lacking and will cause death of our fish or aquatic animals because of the lack of oxygen. Caused by algal bloom,